following Answers for Elders podcast features author, innovator, Alzheimer's and dementia family coach, Faith Marshall. And welcome back, everyone, to part 3 of a 4-part series on family dynamics and specifically dealing with a loved one that maybe has Alzheimer's or dementia, or you're just thinking about care transitions, or how does a family get involved in doing the right thing by mom and dad. And we are here with the wonderful Faith Marshall, who is a great coach, for better words, with families. And Faith, you work with families, obviously, in the beginning stages, the middle stages, and probably throughout the process of the care of a loved one. And, we've talked this first hour or first half hour about, kind of the dynamic of, the team family. And, I guess, what are your thoughts? Now we've talked about it, but we haven't really talked about the loved one themselves. So how does the loved one play into the picture?
Well, the loved one is really what this is all about. And
Mhm.
all of the other family dynamics and all of that are really following the lead of the loved one. Where are they at? Where are they at emotionally? How are they dealing with this diagnosis themselves? Do they even understand it? And one of the things that is critical is what's called patient-centered care. So the family has to come to terms with what is the best way to deal with this loved one, and
Mhm.
where they're going in their mind, and where are they today, and what are they talking about? They might be talking about they need to go apply for a job. I need your help with this. And you're not trying to convince them they don't need a job. They retired in 1999. Why do they need a job? It's about, okay, well, why don't we work on that after lunch? Or maybe a little bit of it's called redirecting them, but
Mhm.
it's really all about the patient. The patient is the one that this is all about. And they're the one who's driving the bus.
Mhm.
And you just have to step in and go where they want to go today. And they can be perfectly fine one day, and you can talk about the weather and you can not have any stress. And then the next day they have this sense of urgency and they think they need to get a job because their mother needs help. And their mother might have been gone for 20 years, but it's where they're at in their head.
Mhm.
And one of the things this illness does is it's kind of a blessing. They go so far back in time that they're like pulling stuff out of this hard drive in their head from years ago. My mom was telling me all about what dress she wore to prom, and she never would have told me that before. I heard stories I never heard before.
Yeah.
So one sibling was always trying to redirect back to the present. And then gradually we all got on the same page where we realized that it didn't matter who was right.
Mhm.
And he finally got to the point where it was like, it's okay, mom. Mom would say, I don't think I remember. And he'd say, it's okay, mom. You meet new people every day and you never hear the same joke twice. So we just kind of made it a joke out of it, and just kind of moved on.
Right.
But one thing is for sure in this journey is you really never know what to expect.
True. And I think the other thing, what you're saying is so true in the fact that, above and beyond anything, no matter where, what mindset your loved one is in, they they have a right to their dignity. And
Yep.
I think a lot of times, when you're correcting or, and I was guilty of this, I didn't know any better, but if you're trying to correct your loved one or make them feel bad because they don't remember things or, anything like that, that, that is not the proper way to deal with
Right.
it. And
Yeah,
to have that element of check your own ego at the door, because
exactly.
I think the other thing that happens with you know, even though your loved one may be advanced in the advanced stages of Alzheimer's dementia,
Mhm.
they're still going to press your buttons.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I learned in my way of dealing with my mom, there were times that she would push my buttons, and I just could feel the steam rising, and I just said, I'm going to go for a walk. I'll be right back, Mom. And
Right.
then I would go around the block, where she was in the care facility, and I would walk the whole block around. And sometimes it was pouring down rain out in rainy Seattle, but it was good for me because
Yeah.
it got me away from the scenario. It got me
Yep.
out, and I was able to take a deep breath. And sometimes I'd call a girlfriend, and that is the other thing that I always talk about is if you have a friend that that you are close to that has offered support to you in the care of your loved one, the
Mhm.
best thing that you can have a friend do is be there for those times.
And
I I
listen.
want you to be my
Yeah.
greatest listener. I want to be able
Yep.
to vent with you. I want to go out to lunch and have a glass of wine together. I want to be able to do things that bring joy to my life, because right now I don't have a lot of that. And
Right.
that's really those are the things when I think about families and how things happen. Sometimes just being that sibling that says to that person that's on first, taking care of the loved one that's on first, is the fact of, be there as just somebody that is there to listen. I
Yep.
think is so valuable, and it be that safe, sanctuary that that person can call and say, "You'll never guess what happened today," because it can
Exactly.
be very
And don't
stressful.
try to fix it, because too many
No,
times in a conversation, people start offering you suggestions
mhm,
that's not what
very
you
true,
need.
very
You're
true.
Googling all that stuff, or you have a coach for that stuff. You just need someone to
Mhm.
listen to. You can't believe what she just did. She put the cornflakes in the clothes dryer. I mean,
I know.
it can be all kinds of, just like, what the heck things.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
needing,
remember my mom took my car keys. Luckily, I had a spare pair at home, but she just took my car keys one day and just took them out of the admission, or the ignition, and when I was parking, and she just took them out, and all of a sudden she just took them and just flung them out the window. I was like out of nowhere. And I just went, and I could never find him because it was this field out there, and
right,
I don't even know what spurred it on. She was totally normal, like for her normal.
right.
But these things happen, and it's just like you have to just roll with the punches and be and I had to call a friend and come get me so I could go get a spare key. And it's
That
just
could have just been simple as pushing your buttons.
I was just like, okay.
Oh.
It's
Well,
so
there are so many things that we can do to support the loved one.
yeah.
And one of the things that really helped my mom was dancing. And that's how I came up with and remember when you feel the beat dance.
Don't tell me
Because,
about that.
well, she could be having this weird fun. She always wanted to go to work. So she didn't want to be in her room when she did move into a assisted living. And so a way to kind of circle her back was to play music. Sometimes she would sing along or hum. She was really good at humming. And if it was something that had a good beat, she wanted to dance. It didn't matter
Mm.
where she was because she had a history of dancing. She used to perform with the gadabouts and tap dancing and all of that as a senior.
Yeah.
So it was finding what will ground them and bring them back to something that they find joy in.
Mhm.
And I remember sitting her down at the piano one time, and she used to play the piano. She was afraid. She didn't want to try because she didn't want to mess up because she knew that she was having trouble with her memory. I just started playing chopsticks and then she started playing along. So you really never know where it's going to go, but the main point is giving them some joy, helping them
Yeah.
find some joy, whatever that is, as crazy as it may sound.
Well, and you know what? What better thing to do when you think about just to frame your mindset to say, "What can I do to bring joy to mom today?"
Yeah.
I remember when I went to go visit her when she was in skilled nursing. This is towards the end of her life, and every time I went to visit her, I just swung by the local grocery store and I grabbed a small thing of ice cream and root beer. and
Yep.
it was in the summertime. And I would come every time I would visit, I would bring root beer floats.
Yep.
And that was like, oh my gosh. And what did it cost me? Like $5?
Right.
It was nothing, but it was everything to her. And,
Yep.
those are just to think beyond of what can I do to bring joy? And I think I love that. Music is a wonderful thing to think about. Like what you're saying, dancing, they may not be able to dance due to mobility issues, but you could certainly, move in the chair with them or read a story or bring a photo album and look at pictures from, and they may not recognize certain people, and that's okay, but
Mhm.
it's having that connection and it's having that ability to really find a way to bring that smile to their face
Right.
and know that life, there's a lot of things that we can do together.
Right. And then when I was having difficulty, if I had a negative experience with mom, I was sometimes afraid to go back the next day. I knew logically she's not going to remember it, but I did.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
would take a friend with me to go visit because when
Mhm.
someone else would come in, that was a new face for her to see. She may not remember them either, but it just changed the dynamic of the conversation.
Mhm.
I would always remind people to please don't just look at her and say, "Do you remember me?" or "What is
Yeah.
my name?" because you're putting them on the spot.
Yeah.
And mom was really good of saying, "Oh, look who the cat dragged in," or something just funny she managed to keep her sense of humor.
Yeah.
And she learned how to dance around the what's their name. And
Uh-huh.
or I would say, "Remember Joan, she's here to visit you today," and kind of give her that cue. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just helping them to not feel awkward or feel forgetful.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know what? We're going to talk a little bit more about this in our last segment. And so, everyone, Faith is coming up right after this. And we're going to talk about, again, we're here talking about siblings and how we can best be there as a family and how to put a plan together. And part 4 is coming up right after this.
Thank you.
We would like to thank you for joining us in this podcast. Faith is here to support you and your family on this journey. She will help you to come together in harmony, creating the best team in advocating for your loved one's care. So call Faith at 855-363-2484 to receive a $200 gift card just by mentioning that you've heard these podcasts. Again, that number is 855-363-2484. And guess what? That spells Faith, 855-3-FAITH.